Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья! Меня зовут Елена Дмитриевна, и сегодня у нас с вами вебинар по английскому языку, и мы отправимся на небольшую виртуальную экскурсию по городам Шотландии. Если вы присоединяетесь к нам, я прошу вас поставить вашу реакцию в чат, ну а мы начинаем буквально через несколько секунд. Okay, let's speak English from that moment. And before we start our tour, I want to ask you this question. What associations do you have with Scotland? Well, let it be 1 minute for you to think and to write down your ideas in our chat. Okay, thank you very much for your answers. Well, as we know, Scotland is one of the most attractive and visited countries in the world. It is a part of the United Kingdom and it lies in the northern part of Great Britain. Scotland is known for its beautiful landscapes, bagpipes, kilts, haggis, Loch Ness Monster, and historic architecture of its capital city, Edinburgh. So, let's have a closer look to some interesting symbols of Scotland. Let's start with the bagpipe. So, bagpipe is a type of musical instrument. It's quite popular in Scotland. A kilt, it's a special skirt and it is traditionally worn by Scottish men and boys, and it looks like that. Haggis. It's a dish made of different sheep's organs with onions and spices and cooked inside the sheep's stomach. It looks like that. And the last symbol that was mentioned in the text, Loch Ness. It's a very beautiful lake in Scotland and it is famous for its monster. Of course, we don't know for true does this monster exist or no, but we can check. So, look at these pictures. What is it? And do you know what they mean in Scotland? 1 minute for you to think and write down your ideas. While you are thinking, let's have a closer look and read these words. The thistle, it's a beautiful plant. The unicorn, it's an animal. It looks like a horse, but it has horn right here. And the heather, it's again a plant and it grows in moorlands or highlands or in the forest. And it looks like that. Okay, let's check your ideas. So this is the thistle. It's the flower of Scotland, and there is a legend that when Vikings warriors came to Scotland, they stepped on this plant and cried in pain. Scots woke up and the war was won. So let's look at the unicorn. This is the national animal. It means innocence and purity, power, joy and life. Now it is used in the coat of arms. So, as you can see, coat of arms, there is a translation for you for better understanding, and this is the coat of arms in Scotland, as a part of Great Britain, of course. The heather. This is another symbol of Scotland. It grows on the Scottish moors and highlands, and it's very important to mention that white heather is a symbol of a good luck. And here we can see a purple one. Quite interesting, isn't it? Okay, so let's start our virtual tour. What city would you like to visit first? Write down, please. Okay, so let's start with Edinburgh. It's the capital of Scotland, and it will be quite logical to start with Edinburgh. So welcome to Edinburgh. Before we start our excursion, let's have a look at the useful vocabulary that we might need. So repeat after me, please. Sightseeing, достопримечательности. Castle, замок. Palace, дворец. Well done. Let's start our journey. So, your task is to listen to me very carefully, because after that we are going to answer the questions. So let's start. Edinburgh, capital of Scotland, is one of the Britain's most attractive cities. It's a city for people who like to walk. There are a lot of green parks, gardens and hills, even in the main shopping streets. It's a busy and modern city, but history is everywhere. At the top of the highest hill in Edinburgh is Edinburgh Castle. It was the home of Scotland's royal family until the year 1603, when King James VI of Scotland became King of England as well and went south to live in London. So here on the picture we can see Edinburgh Castle on the hill. Let's go. The Royal Mile is the famous road in Edinburgh. It begins at the castle and goes eastwards. Off the Royal Mile you can explore all narrow streets on foot. You will find some interesting shops there. So there is a picture of the Royal Mile. At the other end of the Royal Mile is the Palace of Holyrood House. It was built by a Scottish king before Scotland and England were united to make Great Britain. Now Holyrood House is a second home for the British king or queen, who usually visits Edinburgh in summer. So this is the Palace of Holyrood House. Our last stop is one of the Edinburgh's 9 hills. One of them is a long dead volcano. It's called King Arthur's Seat. From the top you can look northwards to the great river and the road bridge which crosses it. So this is one of the Edinburgh 9 hills, and this is King Arthur's Seat. So we have just read and listened this text. Now let's complete the task 1. We need to answer the questions. Here is the text where you can find answer. What Edinburgh sightseeing can you name? I give you 1 minute to think and find the names. Sure, let's check. Edinburgh Castle, the Royal Mile, Palace of Holyrood House, Edinburgh's 9 hills, and the King Arthur's Seat. Well done. My next question. Which castle or palace is the second home for British royals? Again, some time for you to find the answer in the text, and if you want you can write down it in the chat. Okay, I think we can check. So, now Holyrood House is the second home of the British King or Queen. Well done. And the last question. What is the name of a long dead volcano? Some time for you to find the answer. And again, if you want, you can write it down. Okay, let's check. So, it is called King Arthur's Seat. Well done. So, our virtual tour in Edinburgh is over and it's time to go back to map. So, what city would you like to visit next? We have Glasgow and Aberdeen. Any ideas? You can write down your answers. Okay, Glasgow. Great choice. Let's go. Welcome to Glasgow. Quite beautiful, isn't it? So, your task is to listen to me very carefully, because after that we will have to complete one task. So, let's start our virtual tour. Glasgow is the largest city of Scotland. The city was founded in the 6th century. For a long time it was quite small. Then the city began to develop. There was built the second university in Scotland, and it made Glasgow an important educational centre. Soon Glasgow was one of the richest and most successful cities in Britain. Glasgow is also a cultural centre. There are many interesting museums, art galleries. The People's Palace tells about the history of Glasgow. Here, have a look at it. The Museum of Comparative Religion explores the world's different faiths through art. So, this is how it looks. And the Glasgow Cathedral is a wonderful example of Gothic architecture. Here is the picture of Glasgow Cathedral. Okay, one more time. People's Palace, where you can find something about the history of Glasgow. Museum of Comparative Religion, where you can find different faiths through art. And Glasgow Cathedral is a great example of Gothic architecture. In George Square, you can see the statues of those great sons of Scotland: Walter Scott, who wrote 61 books, James Watt, who invented the steam engine, and Robert Burns, who wrote poems never to be forgotten. So here is the George Square, and this is the monument of Walter Scott on it. Alright, we have just read and listened to this text. Now let's complete task 3. We need to read the sentences and decide which sentences are true and which are false. Let's start with the first one. Glasgow is the smallest city of Scotland. So, is it true or false? Some time for you to think and write down your idea. Okay, I think it's time to check. Glasgow is the smallest city of Scotland. It's false, because we can find here that Glasgow is the largest city of Scotland. Well done. Number 2. Glasgow is an important educational centre because there was built the second university in Scotland. So time for you to think a little bit, just about 30 seconds, and write down your idea. So let's check. Yes, that is true. Glasgow is an important educational centre because there was built the second university in Scotland. And here we can find why. Good. Number 3. The main idea of the Museum of Comparative Religion is to explore the world's different faiths through art. I give you 1 minute to think about it and tell me, is it true or false? If you want, you can write down your answer in the chat. Okay, it's true. And here we can find the answer and the proof in text. Number 4. Glasgow Cathedral is a wonderful example of Greek architecture. Is it true or false? I give you 1 minute to think about it and write down your answer in the chat if you want to. Okay, I think it's time to check it out. So yes, it's false. Glasgow Cathedral is a wonderful example of Gothic architecture, and here we can find it. Number 5, the last one. The statue of Walter Scott is in Edinburgh Street. What is it? Is it true or false? Find the answer in text and tell me, please. One minute for you to think, of course. Okay, that's false because the statue of Walter Scott is in George Square. And here you can find also the statue of Robert Burns and James Watt. Well done! So we have visited Glasgow so far, and now it's time to go back to the map. Okay, and we have one more city left. It's Aberdeen. And I think it's time to visit this wonderful city. Welcome to Aberdeen. Isn't it beautiful? So, before we start our virtual tour, I'd like to draw your attention to some useful vocabulary that you might not know. Let's repeat after me, please. Prosperous, процветающий, to host, принимать, granite, камень. So, and here you can see a wonderful picture of Aberdeen. Okay, so let's start our tour. But before, I'd like you to draw your attention to the task. Your task is now to listen and to read if you want to, because after that we are going to complete the task. So let's start our excursion. Aberdeen is Scotland's third largest city, a prosperous one which first developed around the 20th century. Aberdeen is known to many as the City of Roses. Around 12,000 different types of roses cover every square inch of Dancy Park. Aberdeen is also known as the Granite City for its Gothic architecture. So here you can see a picture of Dancy's Park, and there are loads of beautiful roses in it. And here is the view of Aberdeen, and we can see that there are many buildings that are made of granite. And of course we can see examples of Gothic architecture. Good. Let's continue. Each year in August, Aberdeen hosts the Aberdeen International Youth Festival. This is one of the most important annual events in Scotland. Hundreds of groups of young performing artists come to Aberdeen each year for the festival. Okay, so here you can see some pictures from this festival. And let's have a closer look to some sightseeing in Aberdeen. The most famous Aberdeen sightseeing are the Old Market Cross in Aberdeen's main square. Here is the picture of it. The statue of William Wallace. Here we can find this picture. The granite buildings of Aberdeen. You can find the examples of granite buildings practically in every picture of Aberdeen. And crocuses blooming in Victoria Park. So here is the Victoria Park, and this is crocuses. It's a very beautiful plant. It can be purple or white, as you can see. Okay, so we have just read and listened this text. So now it's time to complete the task. Task number 4. You are to complete the sentences with the information from the text. The information is the following: August, 3rd, Gothic architecture, City of Roses, 12th century. So, let's start with the first sentence. Aberdeen is known to many as the... Please, continue the sentence. I give you 1 minute to find the improvement in the text and complete it with the correct word. Okay, let's check. Aberdeen is known to many as the City of Roses, and here we can find these in the text. Aberdeen is known to many as the City of Roses. Great. Aberdeen hosts the Aberdeen International Youth Festival every missing word. So 1 minute for you to look at the text and find the correct word. And just a small reminder, if you want, you can always write your answers in the chat. I would be very pleased to read it. So, let's check number 2. Aberdeen hosts the Aberdeen International Youth Festival every August, and here we can find the improvement in the text. Great job. Number 3. Aberdeen is also known as the Granite City for its missing word. I give you 1 minute to think about it, to find the answer in the text, and we will check it all together. Okay, let's check. Aberdeen is also known as the Granite City for its Gothic architecture, and here we can find the sentences that can prove our idea. Read number 4. Aberdeen is Scotland's missing word, largest city, which was founded in the missing word. So it's quite easy now to complete this sentence, but still I give you some time to make sure that you are right. Okay, let's check number 4. Aberdeen is Scotland's third largest city, which was founded in the 12th century. And here, in the first sentence, you can find the improvement. Well done! So, we have visited 3 cities of Scotland today. So, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Aberdeen. We have learned a lot of different sightseeing. And now, let's sum it up. Let's divide these famous places into 3 columns. But before, let's read what do we have here. So we have here the statue of William Wallace, the Old Market Cross in Aberdeen's main square, People Palace, Holyrood House, the Royal Mile, Edinburgh Castle, Museum of Comparative Religion. So, let's check your memory and understanding. What city have these places? So, what does Edinburgh have? I give you a little bit 2 minutes to think about it and to divide these famous places into 3 columns. So, and then we will check it out. Okay, so let's check. So, the Royal Mile, Holyrood House, Edinburgh Castle are in Edinburgh. So, People's Palace and Museum of Comparative Religion are in Glasgow. And the statue of William Wallace and the Old Market Cross in Aberdeen's main square are in Aberdeen. I hope you did it all right. So, which city would you like to visit? It's It's my question to you. We have visited Edinburgh, Glasgow and Aberdeen. They all are very beautiful and they have some interesting sightseeing and places that you can visit, but maybe you liked one city most of all. So, which city would you like to visit? Or maybe you would like to visit all of them. So can you write down your idea in our chat if you would like to share your view with me? For example, I would like to visit Edinburgh first. I think it's the most beautiful and the most interesting city, but it's only my opinion. So what about your? What is your opinion about it? Okay, and my last question to you as a kind of reflection of our today's virtual tour is, what have you learned about Scotland from our lesson? We have a lot of things to cover. We have visited 3 cities, we have learned some interesting symbols of Scotland, and maybe you can share with me your thoughts about our lesson. What did you like? What do you know right now? Okay, I give you some time to think, to reflect a little bit, and if you want to share any of your ideas with me, you can write it down. I would be very glad to read it. Okay, I see. So our virtual tour is over. Thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you very much for your active listening, and I hope you enjoy this tour and this lesson. Спасибо вам большое, что присоединились сегодня ко мне на виртуальную экскурсию по городам Шотландии, и я буду очень рада ответить на ваши вопросы, если у вас они есть. Вы можете написать их в чат, можете написать их на русском или на английском языке, и мы с удовольствием обсудим, если у вас что-то осталось непонятным, или хотите что-то высказать. Как я могу посмотреть, вопросов нет? Это отлично. Значит, надеюсь, что всем все было понятно и вам понравилось. Тогда мы увидимся с вами на следующей неделе на нашем вебинаре по иностранному языку. Я тогда со всеми прощаюсь. До свидания. До встречи через неделю.